Please tell us your name, branch, and rank and years of service.
Yes, my name is Dr. Kenneth C. Hurst, but in the Marine Corps, of course, it was Sergeant Kenneth C. Hurst, and I was part of the United States Marine Corps, and I served in the Marine Corps for 11 years, and while I was in the Marine Corps, I was a drill instructor, and I was a communications instructor.
My name is Gail Vasquez. I'm a retired Navy veteran, 21 years in the military. I served as a helicopter crewman and rescue swimmer. My primary job was to hunt submarines down.
My name is Barbie Royce. I was in the Marine Corps for 7.5 years, and when I left, I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps.
What motivated you to join the military and the branch that you did?
I actually joined the Marine Corps, United States Marine Corps, because of my brother. And now my brother is 1 year younger than I am, and he was a pretty rowdy kid, pretty rowdy teenager. And I remember while he was growing up, he used to get in trouble, here and there. And I remember he joined the Marine Corps before I did. I was in a military school at that time. I took a break from military college to see him graduate. When I went to see him graduate, I saw him marching. He was leaning back. There was a sense of pride in his step and his march. And I remember after the graduation, while he was talking to my father and myself, he was very respectful. Yes, sir, no, sir, very disciplined. And I remember thinking, if there was an organization that could change this guy, my brother, then that's the organization I want to be part of. So he was actually the catalyst that made me join the Marine Corps, just because it changed him from what I knew he was to what he was when I saw him graduate.
My motivation for joining the military was to get away from my house. My father and I did not see eye to eye on a lot of things. As you can imagine, being a teenager, I thought I knew everything. But the motivation to move was to become my own person, become my own man, and figure out who I was. So I joined the Navy. Why the Navy? Because it was either that or the Marine Corps. That was the only two branches that were local to me that came to see us at the high school. And I thought about what I wanted to do. What I was doing in high school for my education was electronics, and that's where it took me. And then when I got to the military, that fell through because I was way beyond that when their basics start. And so then I decided, well, time to be adventurous, time to push myself, and I chose Naval Air Crew.
When I was in 8th grade, I knew that I wanted to be in the military, but then I had to figure out which branch I wanted to be in. So I went to all the recruiters and I talked to each branch, and I found that the Marine Corps was the right one for me.
Tell us about your boot camp experience. Are there any other cool stories that you would like to tell as well?
Boot camp was frightening, amazing, scary, exhilarating, all of that. It was a 3-month experience that really designed to break you down from what you knew from being a young teenager in the civilian world to being a person who is going to potentially be fighting for your country. And it ranged from learning about customs, courtesies, traditions. I learned about first aid. You learned close hand combat, learned how to fire just about any type of weapon, throwing hand grenades, crawling through mud, barbed wire, climbing mountains, you name it. Learning martial arts as well. I think it really taught me a lot just about myself and also about my country and service to my country. And I think probably one of the best parts of the Marine Corps for me was they have this saying in the Marine Corps called esprit de corps, or spirit of the Corps, which is this thought of banding together as a group or working together as a group. And what I like about the Marine Corps is you have this saying is you don't leave people behind, or you work until the work is all done. So they have this true spirit of collaboration and working together. And sometimes you really miss that, or I miss that about the Marine Corps, this whole spirit of working together and working to get the job done or to accomplish the mission.
How did you stay in touch with your family and friends during your time of service?
When I joined back in 1982, when you go out to sea, you could call, but it's very expensive. You get little phone cards and you'd use them on the phone on the ship, and there's only usually like 1 or 2 telephones of that type on the ship. Most of the time it was writing paper letters to parents, which took a week or 2 to get to you, depending on where you were in the world. And then through the advent of the computer and the internet, we slowly started to phase in teletyping, messaging, AOL, stuff like that, which is back in the olden years. And now they're up to high-speed wireless where they can basically chat online, virtual like you do now.
Well, I joined right after high school, so Facebook was a thing in 2006. So I talked to a lot of my friends and family on Facebook. One, I was just stationed in the US, and then when I went over to Afghanistan, we had these like call centers and internet centers where we had to wait in line to use computers or the phone, and then I got to call them back home.
Where did you travel, or where were you stationed during your time in the service?
So interestingly, my father was actually in the service, so I'm actually a military brat. So from birth, I was actually born in Germany, so I started my journey in Germany, and then came back to the United States, and we lived in several states in the United States. Went back to Germany as a middle school student and almost a high school student. While we were in Germany, we traveled everywhere from Austria to Italy to France to camping on the Rhine River. Then when I joined the Marine Corps, I had the opportunity to travel to places like Thailand, to Korea, to Okinawa, Japan. I would say my favorite out of all of those would probably be Okinawa, Japan, and Germany.
I was stationed in 29 Palms, California for about a year, and then I went to Camp Pendleton, California, and then after that I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. While I was in Camp Pendleton, I went to Afghanistan for 7 months, and then when I was in Japan, I went to Thailand for about 40 days.
How did you imagine military life to be, and did it live up to your expectations?
Before I joined the military, I thought that I would be traveling all over and seeing all these exotic places and making a bunch of money to send back to my family. But then after I joined, I learned more about relationships with people and camaraderie and teamwork. So it was less about the traveling and the money and more about the people, the different people.
What was the food like? What was the best and worst thing you ate?
So the best thing that I have eaten was actually not on a USMC or Marine Corps base, it was on an Air Force base. And I remember in Okinawa, Japan, the Air Force base was probably 5 miles down the road. And we always heard that they had really, really good food in their, what they call them, chow halls or mess halls instead of cafeterias. So I took the journey, took a cab down to Kadena, which was the Air Force base. Got in line, and sure enough, they had everything laid out. Literally, they had steak and potatoes there. That was absolutely the best meal that I've had while I was in the service. The Army has some pretty good food too, but that's another story. However, in the Marine Corps, my worst meal was actually an MRE, which is a meal ready to eat. So whenever you go to the field or you're going overseas and you're fighting for your country, they don't give you like the hot meals all the time. They give you a meal in a package, which is a meal ready to eat. And you open it up, and sometimes it's a surprise for you. So I remember one time opening up this MRE, and there was this little square little brick, and it was actually a burger, a dehydrated hamburger. And what you have to do is you have to take this little brick, which is what we called it, you have to put it in water and heat the water up until it becomes moist, and then you can eat it. So that was absolutely the worst meal that I used to eat in the Marine Corps, MRE, the brick.
Honestly, the food from my standpoint was not that bad. The chow hall food was pretty good, actually. The best meal that I ever had was the Christmas meal in Afghanistan because we got steak and lobster. It wasn't the best steak and lobster, but it was steak and lobster in Afghanistan, so it was really good. And then the worst food that I ever had was probably the jambalaya or veggie omelet MRE. Those were disgusting.
What would you tell others about joining the military?
If I had to say something to the youth today about our military, don't be afraid of it. It's not a bad word. Everybody seems to say, oh, the military, you're going to war. That's not the case. I would say if you're in question about what you want to do with your life or where you want to be, take a look at the military. It did great things for me. I'm proud to say that I'm a veteran. I get a royal paycheck every month, whether I want it or not, after 20 years. Healthcare, I'm covered there. I look at other people that are struggling today. I tell people, if you want to be something, join the military for yourself, not for anybody else. Do it for yourself, because you will find out who you are and what you are made of.